Good late afternoon, almost evening. First of all, a lot of you are strangers to me, and I'm probably a stranger to quite a few of you. I've been hanging out at Epignosis for almost 3 months now, since early November. And before I get into my presentation, first of all, I want to thank everybody for being so nice. You really are nice people. I don't know if you know that or appreciate it, but I'm an outsider and I can see those things. So thank you. Of course. And I know that for at least some of you, maybe many of you, I'm the guy who's taking the good office, where all are using it and kicking you out when I get there. And sorry, I'm sure that's culturally inappropriate. But I'll be gone soon. I have these chairs here just to feel comfortable that I'm not alone. Today, well, how many of you remember, as I look out in the audience, maybe not too many, there was 20 years ago, a comedy series, Monty Python, and now for something completely different. By the way, a European or sort of greater European product, and now it's for something completely different. I've given perhaps 700. By the way, I woke up this morning at 3 a.m. with a dream, and you've all had. Is that too loud? No. A dream, and you've all had these kinds of dreams. There's one dream where you wake up and you're late for the exam, and another dream that you're being chased and you can't move your legs, and there's another dream, all these bad, frustrating dreams, and my recurring dream, I've given about 700 lectures of various kinds in my life. I calculated them around 3 a.m, roughly. And I woke up at 3 a.m, and a recurring dream I've had maybe 30 or 40 times that I can remember, that I come here, and I was actually here at 3 a.m. in my dream, and I forgot to put my clothes on. And now, turn off your imagination about what that looked like, but it was embarrassing. That's a recurring dream. I think a lot of faculty or professors or teachers have that dream. I've had a few other recurring dreams that are a little less colorful, but today is the last lecture of my life. Maybe. I don't know. And I'm going to tell you why I think that. It's a lecture or a presentation that I've never given before. But let's see, if I want to play this, what do I do? Here we go. See, I look fine, I feel fine. This is 6 months ago. Taking good care of me, and my heart is sick, and if it is what they think it is, which is extremely likely, it's easily fixable. Bye-bye, I love you all. So let me explain. For the last few months, I'd been noticing, because I can hear my heart in my ear when I rest, like the pulse, the blood. I'd been noticing it going down, and it was Friday afternoon, and it went down, and I would measure it, because I like to count things, and it was 40 beats per minute, which is low, but I felt fine. But I went to ChatGPT, our latest buddy, and I said, what's going on? It yelled at me. It said, get the hell to the emergency room right away. Kept on saying, take this seriously, take this seriously. Of course, I didn't. I called up a friend. He said, measure it at night with your Apple Watch. He's a doctor, and talk to me in the morning with some data. I woke up in the morning, and basically I fainted in the morning. My son had just come in from California the night before, in Woods Hole, Massachusetts. Had come in from California the night before, and so I knocked. It was exactly 8 in the morning. I knocked on his door. I said, Itai, we're going to the hospital. I felt okay. I felt dizzy. I got over it. I would say, Itai, knocked on the door. We're going to the hospital. I had a new car, so I didn't let him drive. I drove to the hospital. It was stupid, right? 8 miles. It was just 8 minutes away. It's a local hospital. I went in. It was a nice Saturday. It was July 26th. It was a beautiful summer day. And so nobody was sick because they're out on the beach. And so I went to the emergency room of this local hospital, and he asked me, the guy there asked, what are you here for? And I said, pulse 40. He jumped up out of his chair, ran to the emergency room, and like in the movies, I got into one of those beautiful gowns, you know, where your thing hangs out, and everyone came out at me. Just in the movies, I got the EKG, I got 2 IVs, I got a thing on my chest in case my heart failed that would give me stimulation, and they hooked me up, and I saw that my heart rate was 40, and then 35, and then 30, and then 25, and then 20. I felt fine. And in fact, and that took about an hour, and they said, you're going to need a pacemaker. We're going to send you to a hospital an hour away. And it's not you're sick. Your heart is sick, but we're going to save you. And so I started getting into, I look okay in that picture, right? I'm happy. I look calm. I'm just telling my family what's going on. And the nurse is just running out as I go into the ambulance and saying, the head nurse said, you really had us worried. That made me think. And she said, if you weren't in such good shape, with 20 beats per minute, you were seconds, minutes, hours, nobody knows, away from just being dead. Okay, that's very theoretical, but in the ambulance, we're going through summer traffic, and all the cars are spreading, standing on the side, because the siren's going, and we're going through red lights, and I see all the traffic on the side and all the traffic in front, and I'm sitting, I'm lying in the gurney, and it started hitting me that I almost died. And I was really shook. My wife, you'll see a picture of her, my wife had died today, 790 days ago, not that anybody's counting. And it was the same ambulance that took her a few different places, different times. And so we're rushing through traffic, and it's dawning on me that I was very close to death. And I started feeling it. And I said to myself, hey, I'm not afraid to die. I'm 74, by the way. I was 73 at the time. I'm not afraid to die. I've lived a really, really full life. I've done almost everything I've wanted to do, everything imaginable. I have a list here. I won't read you the whole list. This is just to remind me, because there's just so many things that I'm really proud of. I cook, I ferment food, I go fishing, I catch hundreds of a few dozens every summer of big, beautiful fish. I have demonstrations of my cooking on YouTube. I've become well known in my field. I've written books. I've gotten, Gorbachev gave me an award when he was still alive for innovation. I've danced salsa. If you really search on YouTube, you'll see a presentation I made on salsa in Puerto Rico. That's like going to the Boston Celtics and teaching them how to shoot hoops. Or to Milwaukee Bucks, more to the point, I should say. I've painted. I've built things in my house. I've had it in. What, is we okay?
Is it the sounds?
Is this? Did something fall? Am I okay? That's what happened to my heart, by the way. No, seriously. The plumbing is perfect. And if the plumbing weren't perfect, I might have died. It's the electricity that failed. I had what's called a total AV block, when you have a boom boom in your heart, your atrium goes boom, and your ventricle takes it and goes boom. Well, they were separated completely from each other. So the boom, and then the ventricle's going boom, and whenever it felt like it. That was the problem, the electricity. It's an easy fix. I've written books, I've done a PhD, and so on and so forth. The thing that I'm actually most proud of all the things that I've done in my life are my kids. I have 4 kids who I'm extremely proud of them, as I should be, right? But it's not for what they do or what they've done, it's more for who they are as people. Americans are strange. I've lived outside of the United States enough years to know that Americans are strange, and I won't be offended if you agree with me. And one of the things we do when we meet people is we say, well, in the cocktail, for the first time, say, well, what do you do? We don't talk about them, or politics, or values. What do you do? And if they talk about their kids, well, what are your kids doing? Well, my kid went to Harvard, and my kid's now and working at Merrill Lynch, working at Epignosis. It's not who they are as people, it's what they've done. I'm proud of my kids because of who they are. So, in the ambulance, I'm thinking, I'm not afraid to die, but I really don't want to. I'd prefer not to die. And then I asked myself, and this is on this it usually takes an hour. It took us 30 minutes to get there because I had the ambulance. And they're calling ahead at the big hospital. They're saying, hey, estimated time of arrival, 7 minutes. Estimated time of arrival. They were taking this very seriously, more than I was. And so why, I'm thinking why? What do I want to live for? What do I want to still do? I'm then 73. I've done all these things. And this is what I want to talk about a little bit today. And I think, share another picture. You can't, and this is one of the reasons why this is my last picture. This is a picture of my wife. You can tell maybe that she's from southern Italy somehow. And you can't take things for granted because just a few months later, this is what she looked like. The finger was exactly the same. I have a collection of 30 some of these. And, or my student, this is a student who I love, Avichai Kremer. March 15th, 2005, he was my student at Harvard, and he was diagnosed with ALS. It was some tremors. ALS is usually a fatal disease. Somehow he is still alive. That's him today. And it's very easy. It's very easy to go from here to there. It's very easy to go from this to this. You just don't know when it's going to happen. So why keep living? And why even make this talk? And I think I can answer that question. This is part of the answer. See this little boy? I keep losing it. And I don't think I'm doing anything wrong. Am I doing something wrong? I mean, one of the things that I'll talk about my ears in just a second. This is a really cute little boy. He's happy, he's smiling. He just has his hands full of tennis balls. He's obviously loves to play tennis. It's me, clearly. And, as an adult, as a 74-year-old, as a 50-year-old, as a father, I would say, hey, I want to get to know this little boy. I want to play baseball with him or tennis with him, and I want to help him with his lessons. He's so happy. I want to maybe go out for ice cream or for dinner, and I want to help this kid. He's so nice. Now, this picture I had not seen until just 5 years ago, and it shocked me. It really shocked me. Because if you'd have asked me to draw a picture of myself at 7 years old or 8 years old, that's right near my house I grew up in, I would have drawn a picture of a sad, anxious, terrified little boy who was scared. Scared, and I'll explain why. He thought he was ugly. He was a boy who thought his hair was the wrong color. It was too curly, big ears, and you can't see he has some scars on his legs because when 3 years old, he was in a fire and was burned. I would have pictured a very different boy. And that boy couldn't talk to anybody. Not that he didn't know how to talk. He couldn't talk about what he was experiencing in his life. This, by the way, is my first sketch, because I said I painted. This the very first sketch I did just in the last 10 years. That's my father. My father was a super geek, a biophysicist, a real scientist. And in Woods Hole, the town I grew up in, there were 500 people year-round living there. I knew everybody. And there was one laboratory that was open all year round. Woods Hole is very famous for science. We've had over 60 Nobel Prize winners that have been there, done research there, mostly in neuroscience, but in other areas as well. But this lab was the only lab open year-round. I couldn't talk to my father. He didn't know what I was experiencing. He was in his own world. My mother also had her own problems. She was a teacher in the school. And one of the problems I had growing up is that and I've never talked about this publicly before, is I'm Jewish, Isenberg, right? And we were the only Jewish family living there year-round in the town. And I was called, I don't know how many times, maybe 5 times, maybe 10 times. It doesn't take much to be called a dirty Jew for a 7, 8, 10-year-old boy to be scarred for life, or almost life. And that was tormenting me. My best friends, these are my 2 best friends. That's John Patrick and that's Stevie Mysona. And that's me. These are my best friends in 1st and 2nd and 3rd grade, and they were the only kids that I ever got in bloody fistfights with, because later on, they became my major tormentors. They're the ones who called me Dirty Jew. For a 10-year-old, that's tough. I would, instead of going to the little center of town, I would walk all the way around the pond just to avoid that. But I did get a few good punches in. Fast forward, 2006, there's our little school, it's a classic New England 5-room schoolhouse. Our little school has a 100-year reunion. In other words, it's once, they've never done it before, they called it the 100-year reunion, and I came and I gave a talk for my class, but before, just as I entered the schoolyard, by the way, you can hear me back there? Okay. Just as I entered the schoolyard, I hear my name. In those days, people called me Danny when I was a kid. Danny Isenberg, right? Yeah. I walked over, and I'm now 53 or 54 years old, and so are they, 53 and 54. The first word that came out of John Patrick's mouth was, "I'm sorry." And he remembered, and Stevie also, they remembered every dirty trick they played on me, every single one. They had lived for 40 years, not with the torture that I lived with, but they lived with the knowledge and the understanding. And both of them, by the way, had been in jail in the meantime and other problems. It was a tough neighborhood, a very tough neighborhood. His brother, his older brother, who was really a psychopath, died of cocaine overdose. His elder brother died in prison, and the other brother died also of drug abuse. They said, "I'm sorry," and we met later in the restaurant, the little bar down where I met my wife many years later, my second wife, many years later, and they repeated it again. They said, I'm sorry, we're so sorry that we did those things. I won't tell you what they did, they're pretty gross. So why am I saying all this, and why am I standing in front of you? My wife, as I mentioned, died 790 days ago. And for a good year and a half, I went through very heavy grief. I think many of you, just as a random sample, many of you have had experiences of heavy grief. We can talk about that later. But one of the things I learned about the period of grief is how you feel unknown. And I think that's one of the great drivers. That was my big discovery, how critical and how important it is to be known, to feel known. That little boy, he wasn't known. And as an adult, I wasn't known either. And we all think that having money is important because it gives you freedom, and having a good job is important, it gives you self-respect. And having good vacation and having friends, all the things are important, and we know, and those are legitimate. But I want to talk in the next few minutes about that need to be known. And to be known not for your accomplishments, but for what's inside of you, how you know yourself. And how critical I think that is, and fundamental that is, as a human drive. And that's, I think, one of the reasons why I'm standing up here today talking about these things, is I want to be known. So let me go through a couple of little thought exercises with you about being known. First of all, you probably know this already, but you can't tickle yourself. You know, tickling, the scientists, I looked this up when I was writing my book. Scientists have a word for tickling. Do you know what it is? Nobody knows what it is. I think it came from the Greek, but I'm not sure. It's called gargalesis. Is that a Greek word? Of course it's a Greek word. It's called gargalesis. You can't tickle yourself. No one knows really why. But apparently, the theory is that something happens in the brain in that little microsecond before you get touched to say this is you or not you. And by the way, you could be forgiven for thinking that it's about expectations, that if I know you're going to tickle me, that I won't be tickled. But that doesn't work. Those of you who have kids, you know, I'm going to tickle you, makes it even more exciting and more tickling. So it's not about expectations. So hold that thought for a second about tickling. A second, maybe a little less happy thought. Maybe somebody here, maybe not, but maybe you know somebody who's lost an arm or a leg or a hand. And there's a phenomenon that's well known called phantom limb, where even though you've lost that arm, and of course it must hurt like crazy, right, for a long time, but even after that, about 2/3 of the people who have a limb amputated, feel it for up to 3 years. They feel that limb. It's as if it's really there, even though it's gone. And they find themselves, for example, if you've lost your arm, you'd be sitting there and you'll reach for a glass, only you can't grab it because you don't have an arm anymore. There's something in the brain that wires you in. I'll come back and tie it all together, I hope. I'll give you one other last thought experiment that's you're really going to like. So I won't ask you to close your eyes because that's a little bit weird, right? In a crowd to close your eyes. But I'm going to ask you to imagine closing your eyes. And as you imagine closing your eyes, think about your mouth. Think about your mouth. Imagine your mouth. And you feel your mouth, right? You feel it's moist. You have something inside your mouth. You're producing about a liter of liquid, a liter of saliva a day. All of us are, approximately. I learned that because the cancer my wife had was cancer of the parotid gland, and she lost all the saliva production in half of her face. There's a famous sociologist named Gordon Allport at Harvard who talked about self, not self, you, not you, and he used this example that I'm going to give you. Imagine that thing in your mouth. You feel good, right? It doesn't feel bad. Imagine having a little cup in your hand. And now spit in the cup. Spit in the cup. Take that saliva out. Now imagine drinking it. Pretty disgusting, right? Has anybody ever done? Don't have to say it. I'm sure no one's done it. I haven't done it. I probably have, in fact, but just because I studied. There's something that happens when that saliva leaves your lips that it becomes not you. It's in a split second that it becomes not you. It's very strange, isn't it? Because, and there's no physical reason. It's all about your brain. It's all about your feeling of what's me and what isn't me, what I'm connected to, what I'm not connected to. So and that's one of the reasons in this little book that I just published, when I went through the grief of the loss of my wife, Carla. Demetrius has met her maybe 2 or 3 times, at least once. A very special person. How that experience of getting known was so fundamental in the healing process. You know, if you've been through it, people ask you the craziest things that make you feel terrible. They say, "How are you doing?" "I'm doing great. Yeah, I'm all over it. You know, she died 3 days ago and I'm feeling fine, back to work. Everything's normal." That's what they, in a way, want you to say. "How are you doing?" It's well-intentioned, but it means they don't know you. I went in once, it was about 12 days into my grief, into my loss. And it was expected, by the way, but it's not ever expected. About 12 days into my loss, and about 4 or 5 days after Carla died, I had this drive, this impulse. I have to get pictures of her and put blown up pictures all around the house just to feel good. And I began to find pictures in her computer, my computer. I found, in fact, a picture of the first night we met. And I would go to Staples, which is a print shop, and get the pictures made one after. I want instant gratification, so I'd go every time I found one, I'd go there. Sometimes twice a day, sometimes 3 times a day. And there's one picture. I'll try to describe it to you. Carla she's from southern Italy, very modest about her body in terms of showing anything you shouldn't show. And one day we were in Tel Aviv at my daughter's wedding, and she fell asleep. It was very hot, it was in June. She fell asleep naked with her back towards me. And it was so beautiful. She was on a gray sofa with yellow pillows, so I took a picture. I never told her, because if I told her, she'd make me delete it. And I had that picture, and of course I didn't want to put it up in the living room where everybody could see it, but I wanted it next to my bed where I could see her. And I knew there'd be a problem, because Staples has rules. You can't print pornography and you can't print erotic pictures. But I wanted that picture, and I wanted just a small version. I went to Staples, and there was a woman there who so far hadn't seen me. She was very interesting. She looked about 60 years old, and her face was like it was pieced together in a random, it's like someone who'd been out in the hurricane all of her life. It was a very rough face. And when she moved part of it, every part of it moved. And I went up to her and I said, "Look, I have a very big challenge. I have a picture of my wife," and she'd seen me. I had a picture of my wife. I just want a small version of it. Can you print it? It's not, you don't see anything you shouldn't see, but she's naked. I said, "Let me check." It says he brought the manager, who's also a woman, over, and the 2 of the women look in the computer. It said, "Don't worry, I won't let any of the men see it." So they looked on the computer and they said, "Yeah, we can do that." Manager went away, and the woman, she turned around and looked at me, and she said, "Just breathe. Just breathe." And I was stunned. And I said, "How do you know?" And she said, "It's the crazy questions that people ask you. How you doing? I said, I'm not very nice. I tell them to ask another question. And she said, I tell them I'm doing the doing because I don't want to make them feel bad. I said, that's not me. And I said, so how do you know? And she said, I lost my husband and my daughter, both. I turned around and ran back to my car. It was Staples. What could but I was known. For those few split seconds, I was known. And that's when I realized how fundamental that is in the human needs to be known for who you are and how you see yourself. So I'll end with another little story. And so one of the things that when Carla was dying, she had cancer. 2020, she went through an operation. We thought she was clean. 3 years later, boom, she got a scan, feeling great, that the cancer had spread through all her bones, her liver, it was everywhere, and that was it. And she fought. She fought for 6 months. She was a scientist, and scientists find the needle in the haystack. So she was determined to find the needle in the haystack. And at some point she said to me, she's Neapolitan, she said, I don't want to hear anything about what you're afraid of. I don't want you to talk to me about what's going to happen when I'm dead. I don't want you to talk to me about what you're feeling. I need every ounce of energy, gram of energy. I need every gram of energy to be able to look for that needle in the haystack. This is about me. It's not about you. She was right, like almost everything. And so instead of talking to her, I talked to my computer. I talked to my phone. I made memos. Turns out Microsoft has fantastic dictation in Microsoft Word. And so I had a record of so many things that had happened before and after her death as well, because I kept on doing it. And I would go, this is a stone, it's about 5 minutes from my house by foot, so it's very close. And I would go almost every day for the first year and a half, and I would talk to her. Are we okay on time? I hate getting advice. I don't like giving it either. But I got 2 pieces of advice that I listened to in the process. One piece of advice was, before she died, make sure you say everything. Everything that you need to say. And the second piece of advice after she died was, don't be afraid to talk to yourself. Not to yourself, to her. Don't be afraid to talk out loud. Walk around the house talking out loud. Have your conversations. It's weird, right? We don't usually do that. It's okay. Do it. And I did. And I did. And so I'd go to the cemetery and I'd talk to her every day. I'd tell, except for when there was snow. But I'd tell her what was going on. I'd practice my Italian. I'd tell her about her daughter. I'd ask for advice. And one day, I'll try to tell you this. And this is all recorded. One day, a year and a half after she died, I went to this place and I talked to her and I said, Carla, what am I going to do? I still feel like I have a knife in my chest, buried in my chest. It's a year and a half. Is this going to be the rest of my life? And Carla, which I now call the Carla in me, because she became a part of me. She was my phantom limb, still there. The Carla in me said, you have to let me go. You have to let me go. And you can read more in the book if you want to. It was more elaborate than that. But I argued with her. I said, I don't want to let you go. I'm not ready. Maybe this is just a dream. Maybe you'll come back. And we had that argument. It's all recorded, day after day for 3 days. After 3 days, I said, fuck this. We have not resolved the argument, but we're going to just leave it. And so what I'm going to play for you now is a month later, approximately a month later after that argument. I just press it and it'll play. This is just an audio.
I see colors in the trees.
Let me explain. I'm walking back up the hill from the cemetery.
And the leaves. I see colors in the trees and the leaves. They're still there. Some are missing, some are dying, but there are a lot of colors that are still there in the world. Life will never be the same without Carla. And there will be life. There is life. The trees have leaves, and the birds sing, and the people say hello, and they're able to walk up the hill slowly and see the sun and the sky and the stars in the sky and the moon shining brightly, and the sun setting over the sea and the sun rising over the sea and the fish jumping in the water. I can see those things. And yes, they would be different if you were here. They would look different if you were here. The colors would be different if you were here with me. And yes, there are still colors. There are still colors out there. They're just different ones. Not quite as bright. And you have to work much harder to see them than I had to work when you were with me. Showing how bright the colors can be and how exciting life is. I just have to work harder at it and realize that it will never be the same. There's life with Carla and life without Carla. They're both life, but they're different.
So there's more. Can I have the light back? Can I have the... So, I don't really know how to end this talk, except for to say that it was important for me to give it. I hope that it has had some impact on some of you. I'm happy if there's more time to have some conversation about it if you want, or just to leave it as is. But what do you think? Questions or comments? Yeah, I don't know. You know, maybe people feel a little too awkward. I don't know. But if there are comments, I'm happy to hear them, or if there are questions. As you can tell, I'm pretty much an open book within the bounds, within the bounds of decency and cultural appropriateness, I hope.
So I don't have really a question. I just have to say that your yesterday nightmare came true. While you were wearing clothes, you were naked today with us. And I'm sure your wife is really proud of you, that you are keep going. So I want to congratulate you on this.
Well, thank you. Yeah, thank you. You know, unfortunately, Carla was raised as a Catholic, Southern Italy. And she hated the church by the time she was an adult for various reasons, but she still had some of the beliefs and some of the rituals of Catholicism, Christianity. And she and a lot of her friends, and all of her friends and family, believe that there's something afterwards. I unfortunately don't believe that, but I do respect it. And I realize now, after what I've been through, how much better I would have felt if I did believe that. I don't. But I did have some very interesting conversations with God. In fact, I had a huge argument with God when the night, Thanksgiving night, we got the news that Carla would not be accepted into the last clinical trial that we thought might save her life, or at least prolong The strategy in these rare diseases is to stay alive long enough for someone to discover a real treatment. That's the strategy. And there was a clinical trial at a famous cancer center. We found out that night that she was not going to be allowed. Her liver was too diseased. And I went home that night. I won't tell you what I told God, but it was very, very nasty. The gist of it was that he made a stupid mistake that is completely unforgivable. He was shooting for me and hit her. But, yeah.
Hi, Dan.
Hi.
We've spoken before.
Yes.
I moved to tears myself, so just want to thank you, because at an event like this, it's the last thing you expect to hear, but also to feel. And so tying it in with whether there is a God or a life afterwards, and what Dimitris shared in the beginning in terms of his vision, from the loss that I've experienced, is that you're here and then you're not. So it's really important for the time that you're here to do something that means something, and that maybe will only affect one person, maybe it'll affect thousands of people, but just live your life with meaning. And I think that's part of the vision that Dimitri shared earlier in the introduction. So thank you for sharing.
And I think that maybe all I have left is just meaning. But thank you. Yeah.
Hi, Dan. Like everyone else, I really appreciate you, bringing your whole self on the stage today. I'm going to try and keep it light. I'll get into it with you one-on-one later if we have the chance. But for now, since you like thought experiments, I want to ask one of you. Right this second, knowing everything you know about life and death, if you were given the choice between dropping dead right this second and having to exist forever, what would be your call?
I'd drop dead immediately.
Yeah. Okay, good. I hoped you said that.
I don't know if you know, I took a whole semester of Greek mythology when I was an undergraduate. I shouldn't say it in this audience because I've forgotten a lot. But I remember one thing we had is our professor said that one of the theories of why the Greek gods were so decadent and horrible is that they were immortal. So I think that knowing that we're here some finite time, usually we think we're going to be here longer than we are. And when Carla died, we knew she was going to die. It was clear. But when she died, that being was gone. It was devastating. Yeah.
Well, hi, thanks for sharing. Hi, thanks for sharing your experience. And as today is the World Cancer Day, I would say, yes, today,
I didn't know that.
yes. So thanks for sharing your message, because this is so important, because I know that there are many people struggling with having lost their loved ones, so it's really important. So thank you so much.
Yeah, as a good friend of mine said, she's a doctor with 50 years or 40 years of experience, and one of our best friends, and she summed it up very medically. She said, cancer sucks.
Yes. Absolutely.
Maybe one more comment, and then time is up.
I'd like to make a concluding remark. So, Dan, from the bottom of my heart, I would like to thank you very much. Thank you, really. And please, let's give a round of applause to Dan. When Dan told me that he was planning to spend this winter in Athens, I really think it's how can I say? It's a privilege I would never imagine we would have to have you with us. It's a real pleasure. And just as a statement, many of you had been to those seminars with my mentor, Harel Abidis, many of you perhaps, but we lost him, suddenly. He was saying something that Carla would probably agree, that, you know, the people in this country have the following habit about Greeks, perhaps not only, that they build houses like they will never die, and they eat dinners like they will die tomorrow. So
That we should go eat.
yeah, so this is what we'll do next, and we build companies perhaps like we'll never die. So that was an amazing talk. Thank you so much. I hope it's not the last, but it really values. It's amazing. So thank you. Thank you very, very much.